What's going on there, guys? We back with another one, and today we're going to talk about James Harden. Now, it's been reports that James Harden is open to returning to the Houston Rockets, and this comes after the whole meltdown in Brooklyn, after he didn't get the salary he wanted with the Sixers. It came out as a report like he was sacrificing, like he just wanted to win a championship. Now we're hearing, once free agency hits, Houston could be an option. And it seems like, to me, James Harden is using this for leverage to get what he wants. It was all about winning just a few years ago. You forced your way out of Houston. Houston would have given you the money at that point. Now, a 34-year-old James Harden, what would Houston gain from that at this point? You got Kevin Porter Jr., you got Jalen Green, you got a young Jabari Smith, you got Big Sengun down there. All these guys are playing well, and they're young players. All these young guys are playing well together. There's no need to reinsert someone like James Harden, and certainly not for no maximum contract. I think at this point, James Harden gave them what he gave them when he gave them that. But it's time to move on, time to keep going with the young guns. There's no reason, absolutely none at all, to bring him back at this stage, in my opinion. So let's check out what Jalen said, and then we're going to check out what Stephen A. Smith said, and I'll be right back. Check it out.
Sixers on a new deal. Remember, signed a 2-year, $68 million deal in the offseason, but it includes a player option that puts him right back in free agency this summer.
I was staring at Mr. Rose when you said that initially, and I fear we may need some sort of medical intervention. Are you okay, Jalen?
That was literally a Woj bomb. And so let me get this right. He didn't get the long-term big deal he wanted from Philly, so he may be using Houston as leverage. And when you talk about a long playoff run, that ain't happening if he goes back to Houston. See, one thing about being a great player, you guys know this. At some point, we have to win because we got you. Okay, so he wanted out of Houston, he got to the Nets. That didn't work. Wanted out of the Nets, got to the Sixers. Let's see if it works. That goes against everything Cassidy just interviewed Joel Embiid about. Literally, he said he needs to reinvent his game, which means that either he wants to A, get his money and or be the guy if he leaves Philly.
You know what this is?
Let me tell you what I was told. I was told when James Harden departed from Houston that one of the reasons, because remember, they didn't have to let him go at that moment in time. He could, but they were willing to do so because obviously James Harden had basically told them, you know what, this is some place that I want to come back to end my career. I just need to find myself in a better situation to compete for a championship. His original target was Philadelphia with Daryl Morey there. That wasn't going to happen after Daryl Morey and Houston severed ties the way that they did. So he settled on Brooklyn, then ultimately ended up forcing his way to Philadelphia. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. They're the only ones that he got a shot at getting that money he wants. Nobody else going to give James Harden that money. Not at this stage and point in his career, even though we saw him impressive the other night against the Clippers, and we know what he's capable of doing as an all-around player. The bottom line is he's not what he used to be.
Wow, so yeah, man, I agree with Jalen Rose. He's using this as leverage for sure because nobody wants to pay James Harden that. And to be quite frank about it, he's not the player that he was in Houston. And with these rule changes, with how his game had transitioned into Houston, where he was overly seeking contact and just living at the free throw line, they've changed some of those rules so the game can't be manipulated. Honestly, he was a good scorer, but this whole best scorer ever and all this that they've been saying all these years, that was kind of like a smoke screen based on, the rule changes that were favorable. He was getting a lot of gimmicky calls at the time, so I don't feel like he was ever the player that people thought he was. He was a very good player, good all-star, but, putting him over Michael Jordan as an all-time scorer, I was never on that train. And so looking at him, and now he's even older, so he doesn't even have the same level of athleticism and everything that he once had. And he's had a few more injuries. He had that injury in Brooklyn whenever they actually had a chance to beat Milwaukee in that 7-game series where KD's toe was on the line. So he's not the same James Harden even coming back at this point. So, nah, man, I just couldn't do it personally. I couldn't have James Harden disrupt any growth of my younger players because, let's face it, where do you put them at? You got Kevin Porter Jr. Kind of playing that combo guard role, handling the ball, and Jalen Green, both of those guys doing that at this point. Where does Harden fit in with this roster? Because Eric Gordon, when he's playing, he's actually playing good with those guys, and I don't think it's no time to disrupt it. And if he's searching for maximum contracts, I think they should continue to move on. That shouldn't even be an option. That seems like something actually that Michael Jordan would do, pay a guy after the prime of his career and give him a lot of money to come to Charlotte. That's probably the type of organization that'll pay, because you remember Jordan was supposed to get Gordon Hayward that time, and then he went to Boston, and then 2 leg injuries later, he still maxes him out and gives him a max contract, which was crazy to me. Once he turned down Charlotte after coming out of Utah, that should have been the end of that. So it seems like he may end up landing somewhere like Charlotte for a max contract. All in all, the Hornets have made crazy decisions over and over again. And so James Harden, just looking at his prospects, and I know, why he left Brooklyn. He actually, I've heard firsthand some of the things. He met with assistant coaches from other teams and stuff, and he was telling them about the KD-Kyrie dynamic, and he wanted out of that. He did not want any parts of what was going on like a year ago up there in Brooklyn with Kyrie out. It was already understood that KD was wanting to leave this summer, so they thought KD was going to leave this summer, but there was no trade for him. Either a team's young players were too valuable and they didn't see the value in KD at this stage, trading away their future for that, or the person that they were willing to give Brooklyn just wasn't of equal value of Durant. So they ran into that. It didn't sound like he was sacrificing. What it sounds like to me is that he underperformed versus Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, but he had to take, what he could for now to try to build his game back up, have some good showings. He's using it, I guess, to show he still got it so he can get a maximum contract. But I think that comes somewhat at the expense of Maxey's growth and development, because I like Maxey with the ball sometimes more than James Harden. I feel like, he's stat padding sometimes, and just by having the ball so much, you'll get your statistics if you're a good player. I mean, even sometimes as good as Luka Doncic is, some of his statistics are inflated because he's holding on to the ball 90% of the game, So guys that are ball dominant like that, and it's not their position, they may get their stats, 50 points, 12 assists, all that may look good, but the continuity and the flow of the offense is thrown off because these guys are selfish with the ball. There's a such thing, I like to say, you can have selfish assists where you dominate the ball and then you kick it to the corner and the guy just happens to be a really good shooter, but the other 3 guys on the court never touch the ball, and the guy that receives the pass, he only gets it to shoot. He doesn't even get it to make another play for someone. So, hey man, I don't know, man, but let me know what you guys think. Is James Harden worth another max contract at this stage in his career, or it's a hard pass? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace out.